Hey guys, Shane here. Gonna do this little video series on how to select the knife for you. There's so much information and input that goes into that. There's no way I don't believe I could do it all in one video. Especially if you're really putting some thought process into selecting your first knife, your everyday carry knife, your one and done knife, because a lot of us seem to forget not everybody out there is into owning entire knife collections and having dozens of knives just because we love it. Some people just need a cutting tool, and so I want to do this video series and break it down into parts about the things to think about before you purchase a knife. I'm going to start with this because this is what most people out there, believe it or not, think of when they think of a pocket knife, because this is what's been around forever. This is probably what your dad, your granddad may have carried. The guy that in my life that I know that uses a knife more than anybody else I know, and he can afford a good knife, but this is the kind of thing he carries every day. This is just a slip joint knife, and he literally, his knife is in and out of his pocket all day long, doing everything from castrating calves to an hour later cutting his peanut butter sandwich. I know he's a disgusting human being. But anyway, guys, this is a slip joint knife, and what that means is that there's no mechanism that you have to mash. You just catch it with your fingernail. You open the blade. There's a metal back lock bar there. That the geometry of the bar and the geometry of the inside of the blade, they line up and they click and lock into place. However, it's just a lot amount of pressure that it takes to fold that knife back shut. And guys, to be honest with you, there's nothing wrong with that. This is all a lot of people need. They don't need a knife to lock open and stay open. So, that's why these things still sell great. That's why a lot of people still carry them. That's your slip joint knife. Next on my list is not necessarily a very popular style of knife. I'm seeing more and more of them, but it's this, what they call a double detent. This is guys, this is a junk knife. I'm not going to get into what this is. But by double detent, it just means that there's two detent balls inside the scale, and there's two holes inside the blade. One of those balls engages a hole when the knife is open to keep it open, with very light amount of pressure. It doesn't take much at all to crack that detent. This is not something you want a hard use. This is, not something you want to count on, not to close and cut your finger off. This is a letter opener, in my opinion, pretty much. But it is a sharpened blade, and it's better than not having a knife at all. So that's the double detent. Next up is one of the most popular methods out there. And guys, I looked to see if I had an American-made knife with a liner lock in it, and I don't think I do. You guys hit me in the comments. Do y'all know of any really good or really popular American-made knives that are liner locks? Because I can't think of any off the top of my head at the moment. This is my Civivi riffle that Andrew over at Hawaii Knife and Gear handmade these custom Koa scales for, and I absolutely love this knife. As you know, I'm a big proponent to USA made knives. I love owning my USA made knives. This is a Chinese made knife. However, I don't have that pride and ownership of it being an American made knife, but I do have some pride in the fact that Andrew put his blood, sweat, and tears and his passion into making these scales for me. But anyway, this is a liner lock knife. I'm not going to get into the opening mechanism. We'll get into those later. But as you can see, when you open it, this liner slides over and pushes against the bottom of the blade right there, locking it open. Now, this does require quite a bit of force to shut, and most of the tests I've seen on liner locks, when they torture test them and try to make them fail, they typically end up just folding over all the way between the blade and the scale right here and locking the knife open almost permanently. So the odds of you failing it to a point that it closes on you are pretty slim, making it a fairly safe locking mechanism. Now, that being said, I have recently experienced this Kaiser October, which is a fairly popular knife. It's not my knife, I borrowed it. But I want you to hear this so you can hear it lock up. This is a liner lock knife that will absolutely hurt you. This knife does not lock most of the time. Now guys, if I put some force behind it, yeah, now it's locked up. How hard would it be to get it to unlock? I don't know. However, I don't know if they're all like this, but that's dangerous. You know, that's a liner lock knife. That's not how it's supposed to work. All right, next up is the back lock. Now this knife was made very popular by Buck. I'm not saying they invented it, but when most people think of a back lock knife, they think of the old Buck 110. You know, it's still a great knife, guys. Nothing wrong with a Buck 110. This could literally be the only knife you ever have to own for the rest of your life. But a lot of companies decided to move this lock from way back here to up here. Now, what does that geometry do for the safety of the lock? I can't say. I don't know that for sure. However, I do know that it makes it easier to access, because I don't have to slide the knife all the way back down here to access the button. You know, some guys even like this, saying, you know, they can one hand close it, because you can mash it. It'll drop to about halfway and then, you know, close it against your leg, whatever. But that's the back lock. These are incredibly strong locking mechanisms. These are, in my opinion, a very safe locking mechanism. So if you're hard using a knife, you're, you know, even sometimes using it not for what it wasn't intended for, back lock's a good choice. So that's the back lock. We've still got a few more to go, guys. Cold Steel and Andrew Demko took the back lock and kind of reinvented it. Guys, the only difference between a Cold Steel triad lock and a back lock is there's an extra pin inside here that takes the brunt of the pressure from the blade. The thing about a back lock is it's really strongest in one direction, whether it's keeping it from folding the rest of the way back or folding closed. With this extra pin, they you know, they claim, you know, that they may have doubled the strength of a back lock. So a good triad lock is a good choice. You can find the triad lock on tons of Cold Steel knives. Not all Cold Steel knives are American made. However, the majority of them that aren't made in the United States are made in Taiwan. Taiwan is a friendly country to us, so I don't have a problem buying Taiwan knives, even though I always prefer to buy American made. That is one issue with the Code Forward, the Axis lock. It's not the easiest knife to close. Sometimes it can be a pain in the butt. Anyway, next time. You guys all know what this is. This is a Benchmade with an Axis lock. I'm not fidgeting these knives opening, guys, because that's not what this video is about. However, this knife has what they call a crossbar lock that rides on the inner frame, and it has omega springs that when you open the knife, it pushes the lock up into a notch inside the blade, which holds it open. This is a fairly strong locking mechanism. It's a fairly safe locking mechanism. It's not my favorite mechanism because I have some issues with my hands, guys, and I struggle with an Axis lock a little bit, regardless of what company it's made by. Their copyright ran out. Everybody's making a crossbar lock style knife now. It's a really good choice, you know, for a good strong locking mechanism. You know, it comes on a lot of Benchmade's black box knives, which are intended for military and police. So, you know, it's got to be a good strong lock in order to hold up to that kind of work. So yeah, the Axis lock or crossbar lock or whatever the company that's making it wants to name it now, because everybody's doing it. Great locking mechanism. One other thing to keep in mind, guys, I'm not talking about these locking mechanisms and how they affect the fidgetability of a knife, because I don't give a shit about that. These are cutting tools. I really don't care about how well it flips open and shut and all that stuff. As long as it opens smoothly, closes smoothly, and locks up safely, that's what this is about. All right, so that was a crossbar lock. Now Spyderco kind of took the old liner lock and they just changed it up a bit. It's still basically a liner lock because it is part of the liner that comes over and locks the blade open. However, they call it the compression lock, and instead of coming in through the front of the scale and having to access it to get it out of the way, this all happens on the back of the blade. They say that makes it safer because your fingers never have to get in the path of the blade to shut it. Justin over at OCDs for EDC sells these little things called a CME, Compression Made Easy, and what it does is it gives you this little small chunk of G10 or micarta or whatever to grab hold of and unlock that CME much easier. I think it's a complete game changer for any knife with a CME. So that's OCD for EDC. You can find that CME to really upgrade your compression lock. Next up, some people say this is kind of a take on the Axis lock, when I don't know if I completely agree with that, but this is Spyderco's ball lock system. It also rides on a spring, however it rides on a coil spring instead of an Omega spring, and it pushes a steel ball up into a notch in the blade to lock it open. It is a very strong locking mechanism, very dependable locking mechanism. Once again, if you're getting into hard use, I don't think you can go wrong with this ball lock system that Spyderco. Unfortunately, they only use it on a couple of models. I think that's a real shame because it's a great locking mechanism. Not everybody loves the CME. Spyderco, let's see some more of that because it's a great lock. Next lock I got to show you guys is one that has gotten extremely popular recently. This is on a Hogue. This is the button lock. Now, not all button locks are going to come with a secondary lock. I don't believe they're necessary. However, the advantage to this secondary lock is you can lock the blade either in open or closed position so that you don't accidentally open or shut it. I've never had that issue. There may be guys out there who do things for a living that they need that. So I don't have a problem with it. I'm not going to badmouth it. I just don't personally need it. However, a button lock, this is just a metal plunge that goes inside here, and it's got a groove, as you can see right there, cut into it. So as you mash it, that groove lines up with the blade and allows clearance for the blade to come shut. A lot of people love this locking mechanism because it makes for such a fidgety knife. You can simply mash the button, sling the blade shut, put it back in your pocket, on to the next task. How strong is it? I'm not going to speak on that. I don't consider a button lock an extremely hard use knife type lock. I just don't, because I haven't seen it tested over time, how well it's going to hold up. I've heard several complaints about button locks as they wear. They start to get some funny things that happen. But anyway, not bad mouthing button locks because I like them too. I'm just not going to pick that for my hard work knife. Last but not least is the frame lock. Now this is a ZT, guys, but the frame lock was actually invented by Chris Reeves Knives. It's simply he takes the part of the solid metal frame on what we call the lock side. He cuts out this line, mills out part of the bar there to give it some flex, and that is bent in. And so it's always under spring pressure. When the blade opens, it springs over and makes contact with the blade, once again, a lot like a liner lock, locking the blade open. This is an extremely strong and extremely safe locking mechanism. One reason for that is because when you're using the knife and you're gripping it, you're actually squeezing that lock further into the blade. You're making it stronger as you use it. However, when I say that it's a extremely safe and extremely strong lock, it's when it's done right. I'm glad I'm using a ZT for this purpose because this ZT is done right. It locks up well. It will not fail. However, I have handled several ZTs that with just a light tap on the back of the blade, just like that lock will disengage and let the blade fly shut. So frame locks, when done right, extremely good. When done wrong, extremely dangerous. Guys, these are all the locking mechanisms that I have at the moment and that I can come up with. So, they all give you something to think about whenever you're thinking about purchasing your next knife, your first knife, your one and done knife. Think about what it is you do for a living, what it is you're going to do with that knife. And, because, there's nothing wrong. You can buy a great knife that sucks for you because it wasn't for you. It wasn't for what you do every day. So keep that in mind. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments. And especially, guys, I want to reiterate, if you guys know of any good American-made knives in a liner lock, hit me up because I didn't realize that I don't have any. So anyway, as always, I appreciate any amount of time you guys spend with me. Peace, love.